Chapter 61 I will make sure your whole family never sees the sun tomorrow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two staff groups left at the cabin were in a tent, cooking up some noodles. Staff member A pulled out his phone. Ugh, the signal up here sucks. I used to get a bar or two, but now, nothing. Staff member B slurped down some instant noodles. Chow down. If we gotta go look for someone, we need the energy. Staff member C chimed in, you think this whole mess is gonna get the show cancelled? Finding a decent job is tough enough these days. I was so stoked before, another said. Our show was blowing up, #1 on all the streaming platforms. I can't even imagine the backlash we're gonna get now. Hey, don't sweat it. Someone else will deal with it. Go grab little Wong at the door and tell him to eat up before his noodles get all gummy. While they were calling the others in for noodles, Chi-gu led his crew toward the cabin. The production team's decision to leave staff behind meant they missed a chance to spot the danger. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, the sudden shutdown of such a popular live stream was causing major waves. Everyone was freaking out. Fu Yibin was the most stressed. This show meant everything to him. He frantically dialed producer Lin. Hey, Lin, what the heck's going on? The live stream's down. Producer Lin got straight to the point. 2 of the guests are missing. We're searching for them now. If we don't find them in an hour, we're calling the cops. What? Fu Yibin was stunned. He knew what was important. Shows come and go, but lives. Then get searching. Now, producer Lin replied, everyone's dropped what they're doing to look. Jiang Qilan and the others are still in the cabin, right? It's gotta be safe there, right? Fu Yibin was clearly worried. Jiang Qilan was solid. Selfishly speaking, if anything happened to anyone, it couldn't be him. Producer Lin tried to reassure him, don't worry. It's secure in the cabin. And Cheng Ling's there, isn't she? She can handle anything. After hanging up, producer Lin, still anxious, tried calling the crew at the cabin. No answer, still no signal, which was pretty common in the forest. Producer Lin didn't think much of it, pocketed his phone, and yelled, everyone, keep your eyes peeled for anything. Keep shouting. Yang Zhao. Lu Dengfeng. Yang Zhao. The shouts echoed through the trees. Inside the cabin, Jiang Qilan understood exactly what Cheng Ling was getting at. Following Lu Zhan's lead, he said, okay, my colleague's right. Name your price. If I can swing it, I will. Chi-gu hesitated. This isn't your fault. Why are you so eager? Why isn't it my fault? Our show screwed up first. Breaking and entering, possible invasion of privacy, that's a big deal. Jiang Qilan sighed. I gotta protect my reputation. One whiff of scandal, and I'm done for. Chi-gu nodded sympathetically. He knew that feeling all too well. He'd been a respected doctor, but after the organ trading scandal, he was public enemy #1. He figured he was doing good, saving lives, but the world didn't see it that way. Chi-gu snapped out of it and took a drag of his cigarette. But how are you gonna transfer money without a phone? Most bank cards are linked to a phone number these days, Jiang Qilan explained. Guys in my line of work have financial managers to handle that stuff. I call him, tell him what to do, and the money moves. 20 million, Chi-gu ground his cigarette into the table. 20 million, a number he'd never even dreamed of. 20 million, in this world, you could buy 10 lives with that kind of money. 20 million, with that much cash, he wouldn't have to live life on the edge. If Jiang Qilan couldn't cough up 20 mil, maybe he'd settle for 10. Deal. Jiang Qilan agreed instantly. 20 million. It'll be there in a minute. Chi-gu thought to himself, celebrities rake it in. They make more money than drug dealers. Napper, kill the jammer. Chi-gu ordered the guy with the signal jammer. The guy didn't move. He lowered his voice and whispered, but, Chi-gu, what if, he gets the phone and calls the cops? Cops? Ha! Chi-gu scoffed. The Silwan Forest? We call the cops, so what? You think they'll find us in 3 days? Jiang Qilan chuckled. Guys, I'm not that petty. It's just 20 million. It's a win-win for everyone. But. The guy started to protest. Napper. Chi-Go roared, the guy's face flushed, and he glared at Chi-Go for a moment before finally giving in and shutting off the device. Chi-Go pulled out his phone and was about to hand it to Jiang Qilan when a barrage of notifications flooded his screen. Since he'd been using the jammer, a ton of messages had been piling up. Chi-Go glanced at them and froze. One was from his boss, Tank, call me. Now. Then, several missed calls from Tank. Why was he so desperate to reach me? Chi-Go felt a knot forming in his stomach. Tank was a stone-cold bastard. Chi-Go was terrified of Tank. Just then, his phone rang again. It was Tank. Chi-Go answered instantly. Lu Chi, you moron. Arrest everyone in that room, now. I'm bringing 50 of my boys, and we'll be there in half an hour. You screwed up big time. If anyone gets away today, I'll make sure your whole family never sees the light of day again. Chapter 62 The King of Song's Imitation Skills. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chi Ji's face went white, the phone blared a busy signal, Tank's final threat still ringing in his ears. Your whole family will be sleeping with the fishes tomorrow. But even as he stood there stunned, Cheng Ling sprang into action. Nobody saw her rip the bedsheet off the bed and roll it into a tight bundle. Nobody saw her douse one end of it with her mineral water. Gripping the dry end, she swung the soaked end hard. It became a heavy, improvised whip. Whoosh! The makeshift whip cracked through the air, slamming squarely into Chi Ji's glasses. The lenses shattered instantly, and Chi Ji's eyelids snapped shut. Glass shards tore into his eyelids, and blood instantly clouded his vision. He clutched his eyes, howling, and crumpled to the floor. Cheng Ling yanked back the whip and wrapped it around Haida Ashing's neck. Caught off balance, Ashing stumbled and fell. Cheng Ling didn't hesitate, kicking him in the back of the head. Ashing went down like a sack of potatoes. Cheng Ling flicked her wrist, and the bedsheet uncoiled from Ashing's neck. She used the end of it to hook the signal jammer. The jammer's heavy casing slammed into Cripple's forehead, then swung back, taking out two more thugs who were standing close by. That left two standing. They finally reacted, drawing long knives and charging at Cheng Ling. She rolled across the ground, tangling one guy's calf in the bedsheet and tripping him. She scissored his neck with her legs and delivered a brutal chop to the back of his neck. Then, she heard the whoosh of air slicing behind her. No time to look. She grabbed her backpack from the floor, ready to block. Clang. The thug with the knife slowly crumpled to his knees. Jiang Qilan stood behind him, holding a splintered wooden bench. Cheng Ling smiled at him. Jiang Qian's heart hammered in his chest. He didn't know if his pulse was racing from the adrenaline of hurting someone, or from her smile. Outside, Lai Pizzi heard the commotion inside the cabin. What the hell's going on in there? He rasped. Cheng Ling stood up, grabbed a knife from the floor, ready to go outside. Jiang Qilan tugged at her clothes and shook his head. He put his fingers to his throat and shouted, Lai Pizzi, get in here. That voice. That thick northeastern accent. Almost a dead ringer for Chi-Go. Unless you know someone really well, you wouldn't notice the difference at first. And shouting from inside the cabin, with a little distortion, wouldn't raise any red flags. The guy was a master impressionist. Lai Pizzi walked in, completely unsuspecting. He was greeted by a bench to the head. He dropped to his knees. Now all the thugs in the room were down. Cheng Ling exhaled and tucked the stolen knife into her waistband. Miss Cheng, what do we do now? Lao Banjiu was standing close enough to have heard Chi Ji's voice on the phone. Lao Banjiu, go tie up Chi-Go, quick. Sui Chao, grab a bag and pack up all the food and supplies you can find in here. Mu Chuan, go get the rope I dropped on the ground. Brother Jiang, help me wet down the sheets a little more. Cheng Ling ticked off everyone's names, except Lu Zhan, because Lu Zhan was completely freaked out. What the heck was going on? Why had they suddenly started fighting? And how could Cheng Ling be so deadly? Was this some kind of twisted reality show stunt? Chapter 63, Are you a robber or not? Don't you have any idea of AC? You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a while, Cheng Ling had the 8 guys trussed up tight with wet sheets. The way she bound them, they'd need to be able to sprout extra arms with built-in knives to get loose. Even a contortionist couldn't wriggle free. Her knot was a fisherman's knot. The more you struggle, the tighter it gets. Chi Gu, still conscious, was squirming and yelling, "You think you can get away with this? This forest is our turf. Nothing gets out of here without us knowing. Nothing gets out if it's weak. I'm getting everyone out of this forest, and you're all going to get what you deserve." Bullshit. We'll see who's full of it soon enough. Cheng Ling then tied their feet together with ropes. Let's just say, if the desperate survival crew tied up guests like this, everyone but Cheng Ling would be waving the white flag by day one. Nobody could undo that knot. Once she was sure they were secure, Cheng Ling bent down and picked up Chi Ji's cell phone. Chi Go perked up. His phone had GPS. As long as she had it, Tank and the others could track her no matter where she went. But then his eyes went wide. Cheng Ling grabbed a wooden bench and slammed the phone against it, smashing it to bits. Clean, decisive. "Ah, why didn't you keep it?" Jiang Qilan asked. "You could have called the cops." "Calling the cops, I'm a little worried." Cheng Ling hesitated. This gang was too brazen in the wild boar forest. They had to have someone protecting them. If they did, calling the police with that phone could backfire. Of course, that was just a hunch. "We can't explain our exact location quickly enough, and we're short on time. Besides, guys like this probably have trackers on their phones. Best to destroy them. Everyone, find their phones and smash them." The others did as she asked, destroying any phones they found. They also confiscated several long machetes. Cheng Ling distributed them, saying seriously, "Remember, if you're going to use it, commit. Don't hesitate, or you'll be the one getting hurt." Jiang Qilan and Lao Turtleju had seen things. They were the calmest, taking the knives and testing the swing. Sui Chao and Bai Muchuan took theirs carefully, as if it were a bomb. Lu Zhan was so freaked out that old Turtledove just stuffed the knife into his bag. "Pack light. Take only what you need, or it'll slow us down," Cheng Ling warned. Cheng Ling quickly repacked her bag with the essentials, including the mosquito repellent and compass Sui Chao had provided. Chi Ji's boss had said he'd be at the cabin in half an hour. 10 minutes had already passed. They couldn't waste any more time. Every second mattered for their safety. She had to get everyone out of there now. "Everyone, follow me. Stay quiet, and don't fall behind." Cheng Ling slung her bag over her shoulder. Jiang Qilan, Bai Muchuan, Sui Chao, and old Turtledove were ready to go. Lu Zhan stared blankly. But he was still lost. No. Finding the cabin was supposed to be a break, wasn't it? How had things gone so wrong? Cheng Ling frowned, but old Turtledove stepped up and smacked Lu Zhan upside the head. "Wake up, idiot. If we don't hurry, we're dead." Lu Zhan covered his face. At least his eyes weren't so glazed now. "Lu Zhan," Cheng Ling said coldly, "I'm not stopping for you. Whether you live or die is up to you." With that, she turned and led the way out of the cabin. Lu Zhan, clutching his backpack strap, hurried after them. "First things first, find the rest of the production crew." "Where are we headed?" Jiang Qilan asked. "To the program's base camp," Cheng Ling replied. From the treetop, with her amazing eyesight, she'd spotted a cluster of brown tents not far from the cabin. In the distance, 5 or 6 minutes later, they reached the production crew's camp in the wild boar forest. It was a large clearing with 3 huge tents and equipment scattered around. The camp was deserted, but they could hear laughter coming from inside one of the tents. Cheng Ling pulled out a machete and held up her hand, stopping the others. She crept to the tent, gripped the knife, and yanked it open. 5 staff members inside, eating instant noodles and chatting, stared at Cheng Ling, who was holding a knife. Staff member A immediately put down his bowl and raised his hands. "Take whatever you want." The other 4 followed suit. "Cheng Ling, do they think I'm a robber?" Staff members who witnessed Cheng Ling robbing squirrels and drones asked, "Are you a robber? Have you not counted the AC number in your mind?" Chapter 64 Big Sister, you have a very good reputation online now. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He Dao Lin, the supervisor, and his team weren't exactly making great time. their remote-controlled rover, all metal and about half the size of a washing machine, think lunar lander, weighed about the same, while its crawler treads could handle some rough terrain. The forest was a nightmare, tangled roots everywhere and wild animal burrows galore. It was slow going. Whenever they hit an obstacle too tough to drive over or around, the crew had to lug the thing. It ate up a lot of time. Finally, they reached the last known camera location where Zhao and the other guy disappeared. The team found their footprints. They followed the tracks for about a half hour before one of the crew members squinted. Through a gap in the trees, he spotted something that looked like a factory building. "Hey, is that a factory up ahead?" He squinted. Sure enough, it was a factory. It was an old place, maybe half the size of a football field. The crumbling cement walls were tagged with faded red paint. Wood processing, no fireworks. 2 rows of what looked like worker dorms lined the edges of the factory. The whole place was eerily quiet. Piles of cut lumber sat outside. Look at this. A crew member bent down and picked something up. It was a brand new, unopened pack of water purification tablets. The packaging was definitely the latest, and it was the exact brand they dropped by drone yesterday. This had to be from Zhao and Lu Dengfeng. Did they see the factory while running from the wasps and head inside? It was possible. "Hello? Anyone there?" Producer Lin yelled. "Zhao. Lu Dengfeng. Are you in there?" Hope surged through the team. They shouted their names and hurried toward the factory. He led the way, practically jogging. He was too anxious. Every second of live broadcast downtime was costing them money. He couldn't even think about how much. But what he really didn't want to think about was Zhao and Lu Dengfeng being in danger. Hiding in a building like that meant they had to be safe. He breathed a sigh of relief. He stepped through the factory door and instantly felt a chill. A cold metal pipe pressed against the back of his head. A raspy voice growled, "Don't move. Don't make a sound, or I'll shoot." Back at the program's tent camp, Cheng Ling stared at the 5 crew members with their hands in the air, speechless. One thought kept running through his head, why are there only 5 of them? Where's the rest of the crew? What about he and Lin, Star? Like he figured, the elder sister wasn't going to just sit tight in that cabin, said little A, the first crew member to surrender. She was definitely coming to our camp to, search for resources. Yeah, we were just talking about when she'd show up, crew member B added, nodding. Bai Muchuan cut in. Elder sister. You're calling her elder sister, too? Seriously. Talk about missing the point. Cheng Ling didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but business was business. Do you have a cell phone? Cell phone. The crew members exchanged glances. I don't think we can give you a cell phone. Crew member A started. But hey. You're super popular online right now. People are sending gifts and leaving comments on the live stream. I swear, it's true. Cheng Ling, I wasn't asking for your phone to see what people are saying about me. Jiang Qilan figured he must be losing it. In the middle of this whole mess, he felt like laughing. Chapter 65 Cheng Ling, protect yourself. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jiang Qilan stifled a chuckle and cleared his throat. Alright, everybody, grab your phones. You've got a few minutes to pack your stuff. You're coming with us. Staffer B pulled out his phone. Here. Take the phone. No need to kidnap us, right? Little C chimed in, yeah, what good's a phone gonna do? The signal's crap. The satellite truck's gone anyway. Cheng Ling asked, where'd director he and the rest of the crew go? Little A said gravely, Zhao and Lu Dengfeng are missing. Cheng Ling froze, her hand tightening on her phone. We saw them on camera, trying to avoid some hornet's nest, and they ran out of the camera's range. We lost them. The trackers on their backpacks aren't working either. Director he said they have limited range. So, he took the satellite truck and everyone but the 5 of us to go look for them. Which direction were they headed? That way. Staffer A pointed. Cheng Ling knelt and examined the ground. the weeds showed clear signs of trampled footprints, making them easy enough to track. But that also gives the bad guys an advantage. This is a race against the clock. Unlock your phone for me. No password, I swear. This is the phone the show uses to manage online comments. We're not allowed to bring our own phones, to keep the location and behind-the-scenes stuff secret. Cheng Ling thought, he and Lin should quit the show and get jobs at the NSA. This security is insane. You'd think they were developing some earth-shattering tech secret, the way they're worried about spies stealing it. Cheng Ling powered on the phone and saw the signal was barely hanging on at 1 bar. Good enough. Cheng Ling opened the contacts and pointed to Director He. This is Director He's number. Littleby nodded. Cheng Ling dialed. The automated voice said, "We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time. Please try your call again later." The staffer looked stunned. That's weird. He never turns off his phone, like, ever. Plus, they've got the satellite truck, so the signal should be great, right? Cheng Ling found producer Lin's number and dialed, but got the same message. Cheng Ling frowned. A, B, C, D, and E exchanged uneasy glances. What's going on? Anyone? So, Staffer A said, working up his courage, why did you want he to guide them? And why should we go with you? We ran into a bunch of drug manufacturers and traffickers. They just attacked us in that cabin. 8 guys with knives. Turns out the cabin you guys picked is their drug lab. Now, they've got 50 guys heading this way, probably be here in the next minute. You sure you don't want to hurry up, pack your stuff, and come with us? What? Those guys are drug dealers. Now it was Jiang Qilan and Lao Turtleju's turn to be confused. The cabin is a drug lab. No wonder Qi was so nervous when he heard they'd gone in there. No wonder Cheng Ling kept saying they hadn't touched anything. So, that smell in the cabin was the smell of making poison. Cheng Ling knew the whole time, but she played dumb and called it pesticide, so, that's it. But why did Qi's boss want them captured so badly? Yang Zhao and Lu Dengfeng vanished. His phone is off. Could it be? Jiang Qilan and Lao Turtleju realized at the same time. Did Yang Zhao and the TV crew already run into the drug dealers? Cheng Ling nodded. She entered a number from memory and said, I'm afraid so. Yang Zhao used to be in the army. I think she was stationed in Yunnan. Smugglers and drug dealers are all over there. She'd definitely recognize the drugs. Everyone's heart sank. The 5 staffers quickly packed their backpacks while Cheng Ling made a call. Hey, bro, Cheng Ling said. Cheng Baisheng sounded energetic. Sis. You're awesome. About that live stream. Cheng Ling cut him off. Bro, no time. We're in trouble. There's a gang of drug traffickers in the woods. They're trying to grab us. Call the cops, quick. The location is PM 2190-2576, about 2.5 miles northeast of the live stream location. We're heading to find the missing director and the others. They were last seen heading north of the cabin. The police need to get there ASAP. Cheng Baisheng gripped his phone. He was all ears, hanging on his sister's every word. When Cheng Ling finished, he repeated back to her, PM 2190-2576, cabin 2.5 miles northeast. And you're heading north of the cabin to find them, right? Yeah, I'll text you the location. The signal in the woods is weak, and my battery's getting low. Try not to call me. Cheng Ling glanced at the battery, which showed 43%. I'm calling the cops right now. Cheng Baisheng took a deep breath. Cheng Ling, stay safe. Don't worry, bro. Cheng Ling hung up. After sending the location to her brother, she set the phone to vibrate. ABCDE had their backpacks ready. Let's go, Cheng Ling said, her gaze serious as she swept over their faces. From now on, you do exactly as I say. Keep quiet, watch your step, and stay close. Yes, ma'am. Everyone tightened their backpack straps and followed Cheng Ling out of the tent, heading in the direction where he and the others had gone. Chapter 66 How come there are such advanced species as drug dealers in this shabby place? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who was that on the phone? Cheng's father asked, setting down his documents. Was that Zhao Ling? Why'd she call the cops? Cheng Baisheng's face was grim. Dad, Zhao Ling's in danger. I called the police first. I'll explain later. Cheng Baisheng dialed 911, the operator answered. What's the emergency? My sister's being chased by drug dealers. I need the police to rescue her ASAP. The operator's voice sharpened. Can you give me her exact location and a brief rundown of what's happening? Cheng Baisheng gave him the information, clear and concise. Okay, the operator said. I'm transferring you to the police station in her area. One moment. A few seconds later, another voice answered. Sencheng Police Station. You said drug dealers are chasing your sister. Tell me everything. Cheng's father stood behind Cheng Baisheng, his expression grave. He couldn't sit still when his son was explaining the situation. My sister, Cheng Ling, is filming an outdoor reality show in the wild boar forest near Sencheng. She called and said she ran into drug traffickers and tried to bust them. We need police there now. Location? The officer asked. The wild boar forest is huge. We can't search the whole thing. GPS coordinates PM 2190-2576. There's a cabin 4 kilometers northeast of her location. They're headed north. The officer replied, We've received the report and the county police is on its way. Our resources are limited. We'd need a satellite engineer to pinpoint her location using the national satellite system, so we can't guarantee how quickly we'll get there. I hope you understand. Cheng Baisheng thanked him and hung up, still worried. Dad, I'm going to Sencheng. Cheng's father nodded. All right. I'll get some people from the local gangs in Sencheng to give you a hand. Minutes later, police from the Matuk County Station, which covered Sencheng, mobilized. The wild boar forest was deep in the boonies. The police station was a small, 2-story building. Their only motorized transportation was an electric trike, including the gatekeeper, clerks, and officers. There were 10 people on staff. This time, 3 officers were dispatched, riding in a trike and a bicycle. They'd have to ditch the vehicles and go on foot at the edge of the forest. The average age of the officers was 50, their weapons, 3 stun batons. So, headquarters wants us to look for some lost celebrities in the woods. And they claim they ran into drug dealers. They didn't give us an address. We're supposed to find it and then they'll give it to us. I don't buy the drug dealer story. Right? Drug dealers? In this dump? Please. Matuk County is so broke, it takes us half a month to get a new pen. Yeah, these days, everyone's a fame seeker. They go to the forest looking for kicks and post it all online. Complaining aside, the officer parked the trike and bike by the forest and headed into the woods. Meanwhile, Tank was seething as he glared at Chi and the others trapped in the cabin. You idiots. Why'd you try to reason with them? Tank was a lean, wiry guy in his 30s with a fierce look and a nasty attitude. Chi stood up. They don't know we're cooking meth. You believe that? Tank sneered. You got a doctorate. Better safe than sorry, remember that? Kill 10 innocents to get 1 guilty. This is life or death. If you kill someone, it's death. If we get caught, it's death. You gotta kill them or sell them across the border. Then nobody finds out. Letting them go is suicide. Tank roared. Did you know that one of them, a woman, recognized the drugs in our lumber mill? Plus, the boss just called. They called the cops, said a bunch of drug dealers were chasing them in the woods. Chi was silent. He knew he was screwed, but he had to try to save himself. Tank, I messed up. Give me a chance to fix it. I promised to catch them all. Tank looked at Chi. He valued talent. His guys were all either dumb or crazy. Few had any brains. She was smart and helped them improve their drug production, set up distribution networks, and launder money. She was a rare find. Tank checked his watch. 2 hours. If you fail, say hi to the devil. Chi clenched his fists. Deal. I'm heading to the lumber mill. Dolly said they grabbed a female soldier and a guy before, and just brought in 20 more. I'm gonna see what to do with them, Tank said. Tank, can I borrow Fortune and Prosperity? Chi asked. Fortune and Prosperity were 2 Tibetan mastiffs known for eating human flesh. They were so vicious that 3 strong men couldn't take one. Fine, Tank said, tossing him a set of keys, the keys to the dog cages. Tank said coldly, my Fortune and Prosperity only go back in their cages after they've tasted blood. If you screw up, they'll eat you. Chi grabbed the keys. He wiped the blood from his face and thought grimly, too bad, Jiang Qilan. I loved listening to your singing. My wife and kids are big fans. Too bad. You gotta die. Chapter 67, Get Rich, Be Happy, Go. Tear her apart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Cheng Ling counted her heartbeats. It had been about 35 minutes since Chi Go made that call. Had Chi Ji's boss reached the cabin yet? How long before they caught up? Cheng Ling glanced at the 2 machetes strapped to her waist, then at Jiang Qilan, Sui Chao, and the others walking silently ahead. A wave of doubt washed over her. She hadn't had enough time to get into shape. She needed to conserve every ounce of energy. About 15 minutes later, Cheng Ling's ears perked up. She whispered, stop. Everyone froze, eyes fixed on her. Cheng Ling cupped her hands behind her ears, listening intently. A sound of hurried running echoed from behind, something crashing quickly through the forest. She could hear bushes snapping and breaking. What was it? Cheng Ling strained to identify the sound, then it hit her, hounds. The H Rangers had a specialized K-9 unit. In certain situations, police dogs were more effective than people. She knew the sound of hounds on the chase all too well. But this wasn't your average police dog. This sounded like a freight train barreling through the woods. The size, the weight, these had to be Tibetan mastiffs. And more than one. Everyone, up the trees. Now. Cheng Ling didn't bother to lower her voice. Old Turtle Dove, you go first and help pull the others up. Old Turtle Dove scrambled up a tree with surprising agility. Jiang Qilan crouched down. Muchuan, get on. By Muchuan hopped onto Jiang Qian's back without hesitation. Cheng Ling helped Jiang Qian stand, and Old Turtle Dove reached down to haul Bai Muchuan up. Sui Chao was a natural. He scaled a nearby tree without assistance. Little C was big and strong. He followed Jiang Qian's lead, giving the others a boost, allowing Sui Chao to pull them up. The group scrambled up the trees with unbelievable speed, leaving only Jiang Qian, Xiao Si, and Cheng Ling on the ground. It was too late. The 2 Tibetan mastiffs were closing in fast, appearing at the base of the tree in the blink of an eye. Pull them up. Hurry. Sui Chao and the others hauled Xiao Si into the branches. No. Jiang Qian stared at the 2 black, lion-sized dogs, their faces contorted in snarls, teeth bared, drool dripping. I'll give you a lift. Old Turtle Dove. Grab him. Without hesitation, Old Turtle Dove hung upside down, his legs hooked around the branch, reaching for Jiang Qian's hand. Cheng Ling didn't look back. She ripped off her backpack, and with a shwip sound, drew 2 long machetes from her waist, almost spitting out the words, just stay out of my way. Jiang Qian gritted his teeth, ignoring Old Turtle Dove's outstretched hand. He took a running start, leaped, grabbed a branch, and scrambled up the tree. Everyone was safe in the trees, leaving Cheng Ling to face the 2 mastiffs. Professionally trained Tibetan mastiffs were a lot tougher than dealing with people packing heat. The one in front of her weighed at least 400 pounds, thick black fur bristling, eyes burning with a ferocious hunger. It looked at Cheng Ling like she was a prime cut of beef. This was a mastiff that had tasted human flesh. Cheng Ling crouched low, holding the machetes, blade down, like a praying mantis ready to strike, showing no fear. She wouldn't climb a tree. That was a death sentence. If she climbed up and then tried to jump down to fight the dogs, she wouldn't stand a chance. The dogs would rip her open the moment she hit the ground, leaving her defenseless. Her best chance was right here, at the base of the tree. Besides, Cheng Ling knew these two were just the point men. There were more pursuers on their way. They could run, but they couldn't hide forever. The mastiff let out a low growl, its crimson eyes locked on Cheng Ling, waiting for its master's command. Cheng Ling held her ground, waiting for her opportunity. She needed to exploit the split-second window when the mastiff lunged. Up in the trees, everyone held their breath, their hearts pounding as they watched Cheng Ling face down the two dogs. Moments later, they heard someone panting nearby. Cheng Ling glanced sideways. It was Chi Gu. He'd swapped out his glasses. Sweat poured down his face. The wound on his eyelid had scabbed over, but the sweat made it glisten. A tear of sweat, like a streak of blood, trailed down his face, making him look even more menacing. "You little bitch. I've been hunting sparrows my whole life, and I ended up getting blinded by one." Chi Gu spat on the ground. The intense run had left his throat raw. Cheng Ling kept her eyes on the Tibetan mastiff. "You're a good doctor, but you chose to be a drug dealer. What's it like living in the gutter?" So, she knew he was a doctor. "If I'm not mistaken, you were a surgeon, right? You're so young to be a surgeon. You must have been a gifted kid, the pride of your parents, teachers, and friends. Someone like you, if you just turned yourself in, there'd be 100 chances waiting. You don't know shit." Chi Gu yelled, spitting again. "There's no going back for me." That it started with organ trading, a huge fine, and being kicked out of the hospital. 2 years in prison, where he met Tank's crew. When he got out, everything had changed. He couldn't accept it. So, he decided to take revenge on society and joined up with Tank. But now, his life was a living hell. He couldn't go to crowded places, couldn't go anywhere with cameras, couldn't take trains or planes. He was stuck in this backwater county with his family, afraid to even think about the future, like a rat living in a sewer. If he could go back, even if he couldn't be a doctor, he could open a small clinic, sell medical equipment, maybe even deliver food. Anything to live in the light. "You still have a chance," Cheng Ling said. "Turn yourself in, rat out the others, and you might actually be able to hold your head high for the rest of your life." Chi Gu felt like Cheng Ling had some kind of power over him. Here she was, a fragile woman, facing down two beasts that scared the hell out of him, and she was still able to talk him down, so calm, so convincing. He couldn't help imagining what she was saying. Yeah, he might spend the rest of his life in prison, but at least his wife and kids could have a normal life, free from this nightmare. Just as he started to waver, the two mastiffs turned and growled at him. It snapped him back to reality. That's right, Tank was just a cog in the machine. There were people above him with all the power. Even if he let Cheng Ling and the others go right now, they'd never make it out of these woods alive, and neither would he or his family. The confusion in Chi Ji's eyes hardened. "No," he said. "There's no turning back. Fa Kai, Shi Wang, go. Rip her to shreds." Chapter 68. This is the first time I see a person who relies on the power of a dog. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two mastiffs lunged forward, Jiang Qilan, by Muchuan, and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. Jiang Qilan grabbed his knife, ready to jump down and help, but the old dove quickly pulled him back. "Don't!" Cheng Ling, previously as still as a statue, suddenly exploded into motion. She charged at one of the mastiffs like a cannonball. Just before impact, Cheng Ling raised her left hand, knife in hand, to shield her face and slid toward the mastiff. The mastiff leaped, its prey suddenly vanishing. It felt a searing pain from throat to tail. Landing awkwardly, it realized something was terribly wrong. Looking down, it saw its heart, liver, spleen, lungs, kidneys, stomach, and intestines splattered on the ground. The mastiff's legs buckled, and it crashed to the ground with a sickening thud. Cheng Ling gave the disemboweled Tibetan mastiff no chance to recover. She sprang to her feet, leaped onto the back of the mastiff's neck, and brought her knife down on its nose with all her might. A dog's nose is its most vulnerable spot, rich in nerves. A severe injury there can instantly incapacitate or even kill it. The mastiff's fist-sized nose spun away across the lawn. With two quick strikes, Cheng Ling disemboweled the dog with her left hand and severed its nose with her right. Blood sprayed from the grooves in her blade with each clean cut. The sudden attack stunned everyone, even the other Tibetan mastiff, Chi Gu, hand raised in a silent command to attack, slowly opened his mouth, his eyes wide with shock, unbelievable. In less than a minute, this cute, seemingly harmless girl had just taken down a Tibetan mastiff in a single, brutal move. Cheng Ling took a few deep breaths, adjusted her stance, and fixed her gaze on the remaining mastiff. To onlookers, she might seem calm, but she was even more on edge than before. The two Tibetan mastiffs, probably used to easy victories, had underestimated her, but her move would enrage the survivor and make it far more cautious. Finding an opening for a surprise attack would be much harder now. Jiang Qilan, who had been about to jump from the tree, froze. Everyone in the tree was thinking the same thing. Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap! Sometimes, when people witness something truly shocking, they can only resort to the simplest, most direct language to express their feelings. Chi Gu finally snapped out of it, a wave of panic washing over him. If Tank found out that one of the Tibetan mastiffs he'd raised for 7 or 8 years was dead, Tank was superstitious and liked to hear good omens, which was why he had given the dogs such cheerful names. And the one that just died, Fa Kai, get rich. Tank would take it as a sign that his path to wealth had been cut short. Even if he managed to kill Cheng Ling and the others, Tank would eventually find out. Besides, Cheng Ling was terrifying. Could Shi Wang even defeat her? The more Chi Gu thought, the more frantic he became. Shi Wang. Get her. Kill her. Avenge Fa Kai. He waved his hand, a set of keys glinting in his palm. Tank's keys, attached to the keychain was a flashlight-like electric baton, specially designed for disciplining the Tibetan mastiffs. With the baton, the two dogs would obey without question. Just as he finished shouting, a piece of bacon dropped from the tree, hitting Chi Gu squarely on the hand. The keys clattered to the lawn. Sui Chao kept throwing things. Damn. This is the first time I see a man relying on a dog for power. Chi Gu flew into a rage. Shi Wang, damn it. Shi Wang. Kill them all. Kill them all. His crazed look was unrecognizable as the beloved doctor he once was. He might have once been a model student, a son his parents were proud of. As soon as Chi Gu finished speaking, Shi Wang moved. Cheng Ling's heart jumped. Shi Wang charged towards Chi Gu, not her. Thump. Then, Chi Gu let out a blood-curdling scream as the Tibetan mastiff tore into his abdomen. The sound of teeth grinding against bone made everyone wince, and Chi Ji's screams were deafening. The people in the tree couldn't bear to listen, but Cheng Ling had no time for sympathy. She couldn't afford to relax. Shi Wang was bigger than Fa Kai. It had only chosen to attack Fa Kai first because it was the weaker of the two and presented an easier target. Now, seeing blood and witnessing its companion's brutal death, Shi Wang would be even more ferocious. Dealing with him would be much harder. Chi Gu fell silent. Shi Wang, its face smeared with blood, turned to face Cheng Ling, its fierce black eyes locked on her. It lowered its hindquarters, extended its front legs, and prepared to pounce. I'm going to count to 3, and you all throw the bags at the dead dog together. Cheng Ling said slowly, deliberately. 3. Shi Wang growled, never taking its eyes off Cheng Ling, saliva mixed with blood dripping from its mouth. Cheng Ling crouched, holding her knife tight, ready to spring. 2. Shi Wang pushed off the ground with its hind legs and launched itself at Cheng Ling. 1. Chapter 69. The Big Sister protects everyone with her own life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang, bang, bang. Backpack slammed into the lifeless body of Lucky Rich, sprawled on the ground. Shi Wang was already airborne. The bizarre, rhythmic thuds made him shudder, and he instinctively glanced at his fallen comrade. Big mistake. Cheng Ling, mid-air herself, landed a brutal kick square on Shi Wang's nose. He reeled, howling in agony, and toppled sideways. Cheng Ling brought the knife down, piercing Shi Wang's ear, plunging into his brain, pinning him to the earth. Shi Wang instantly lost control of his bladder, his body convulsing violently before his legs straightened and he went still. Cheng Ling collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. Jiang Qilan scrambled down from the tree, stumbling toward Cheng Ling before he even had his feet under him. Up in the tree, His heart had been a knot of pain. He'd let Cheng Ling protect him, okay, not just him, but he couldn't bear seeing her in such a dangerous situation while he was useless. Cheng Ling's tight ponytail had loosened, strands of hair plastered to her cheeks, slick with blood and sweat, every muscle in her body trembled from the adrenaline and exertion. Jiang Qilan felt a wave of helpless frustration. Cheng Ling, are you hurt? Jiang Qilan knelt before her, afraid to even touch her. She seemed as fragile as a porcelain doll needing protection, not the fierce woman who'd just taken down 2 massive Tibetan mastiffs. I'm fine, Cheng Ling rasped, but she was exhausted. Jiang Qilan carefully dabbed at Cheng Ling's face with the cleanest part of his sleeve, wiping away Chi's blood and the dog's blood alike. The closeness made Cheng Ling uneasy. She flinched slightly, avoiding his touch, and grabbed the hem of her shirt, scrubbing at her face. The others climbed down from the tree, one by one. They kept their distance from the dead dog, a good distance from Brother Chi's mangled corpse, and, noticeably, a little distance from Cheng Ling. It was pure, unadulterated fear of her. Cheng Ling understood it perfectly. She knew enough about psychology to realize that even though she'd saved their lives, making her their savior, the sheer brutality with which she dispatched the mastiffs was intimidating, and people instinctively feared power. What she didn't understand was Jiang Qilan. He was still kneeling right in front of her, scrutinizing her, inch by inch, as if needing to confirm she was truly okay. Mu Chuan, I've got water in my bag, get it. Jiang Qilan called out. Cheng Ling's lips were parched and cracked. Mu Chuan snapped out of his daze, realizing he'd been spacing out. Do I even care about our leader? I'm completely useless. I was afraid of her, just now. What's so scary about her? Okay, she's scary, but she wouldn't hurt me. And she risked her life for everyone. And I was standing there, doing nothing, afraid of her. Mu Chuan, you're a waste of space. You're heartless. Not a man. You don't deserve to be on the same team as such a badass leader. Mu Chuan mentally berated himself as he scrambled over to the disemboweled Tibetan mastiff, found Jiang Qian's bag, and raced back with it. Old Turtle Dove was different from the rest. He wasn't squeamish about dead bodies, so he went over to Brother Chi to make sure he was really gone. Jiang Qian opened the bag, pulled out the bottled water he'd brought from the cabin, twisted off the cap, and handed it to Cheng Ling. She grabbed the bottle, took several long gulps, wiped her mouth, and handed it back. With slightly trembling hands, she pushed herself to her feet. Everyone, grab your packs. Let's move, Cheng Ling said. This time, no one hesitated. Everyone followed Cheng Ling's orders without question. Maybe they finally grasped the gravity of the situation. Maybe they were just shaken by the raw violence they just witnessed. The group moved quickly back into the jungle. At the lumber yard, vigorously picked up his cell phone. So you want to take care of things at the house before coming here? Tank replied, yeah. How's it going there? They're all tied up. No one's getting away. I'm not going to be like Lu Chi, a loser who only loses his backpack. Good, Lu Chi should be bringing my dogs over soon. I'll contact the Nanbangzi soon. There are so many of them, they can't be used as money, so they can simply be sold. The ones with soft skin should fetch a good price. Tank, I haven't eaten any meat in a long time, vigorously said, licking his lips. The first girl who came to my door was an athlete. She has a slim waist and a perky butt. She's so sexy. Alright, hurry up and don't delay your business. Vigorously chuckled Ludley and hung up the phone. He left the dormitory building and headed back to the lumber factory. Most of the production crew, along with Yang Zhao and Lu Dengfeng, were tied up and sitting on the wood chip-covered ground. They looked up as vigorously approached, then lowered their heads in fear. Vigorously looked every part the gangster. He stood over 6 feet tall, with a shaved head and tattoos. A dragon's head was inked on his bald skull, the dragon's body snaking down his neck and disappearing under his clothes. He wore a green bead necklace, from which hung a gold Buddha pendant. Tattoos covered the backs of his arms and hands. His beard was unkempt, his muscles bulging, his mouth flashing with gold teeth, and his smile was menacing. Vigorously ran a hand over the short, coarse stubble on his chin and strolled over to Yang Zhao. Chapter 70 Desperate Yang Zhao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yang Zhao's hands were tied behind her back. She instantly regretted rushing into the lumber mill. The leader, Dolly, had been giving her the creeps with his eyes since the moment he saw her. Now, he was walking toward her with a disgusting leer, and Yang Zhao was terrified. "What do you think you're doing?" she yelled. Her shout startled the rest of the production team, including Lu Dengfeng. "What's it look like?" Dolly laughed, grabbing his crotch in a crude gesture. "I'm gonna fuck you, that's what. You beast. Get away from her." Lu Dengfeng exploded, his face red with fury, veins throbbed in his forehead. It was all his fault. He'd stirred up a hornet's nest. That's what led to all this. Director He and producer Lin also shouted, "No. If it's money you want, we'll give it to you. Just don't touch her." Dolly stopped. "Money?" Director He nodded frantically. Yes. Our investors are loaded. If you promise to let us go, we can get you money. Too bad. I don't want it, Dolly said with a sneer. Money's great, sure. Who doesn't want money? But money you can actually spend is money. Money you can't is just a pile of junk. But this girl just had to go and recognize the drugs. That's a business decision that'll get you killed. You can't just walk away from that. But. Dolly walked over to Yang Zhao, squatted down, and grabbed her chin with his dirty fingers, forcing her to look at him. "Before all that, I'm gonna have some fun." The stench from Dolly's breath almost made Yang Zhao gag. She'd never been so scared in her life. She could hear the production team begging and trying to protect her, but their words were just a blur. Her mind was blank. "Guys, I'm gonna go have some fun first. I'll give you a shout later." Dolly grinned at the dozen men in the room holding knives. They grinned back, understanding. "Hey, Dolly, that girl's built solid. Don't throw your back out," one of them called out. "Kiss my ass. You think I'm weak? Who do you think I am?" Dolly said as he hauled Yang Zhao to her feet. 7 times a night, easy. Yang Zhao struggled wildly. Lu Dengfeng, fueled by adrenaline, broke free of his ropes and charged at Dolly. "Let her go." Dolly was quick. He sidestepped Lu Dengfeng, who stumbled past him. Dolly then kicked Lu Dengfeng in the back, sending him sprawling. "Damn it!" Dolly roared, punching and kicking Lu Dengfeng. "You want to meet the devil early, huh? Take this." Several other men piled on, kicking Lu Dengfeng relentlessly. His face was instantly a swollen mess, blood pouring from his mouth and eyes. He quickly lost consciousness. Dolly finally stopped and raised a hand. The others froze. "All right, guys," Dolly said, "help me drag this piece of trash over here. I want him to watch while I fuck his girl." He bent down, threw Yang Zhao, still bound, over his shoulder. 2 men lifted Lu Dengfeng like a sack of potatoes and followed Dolly toward the factory dormitory. Inside, Dolly tossed Yang Zhao onto the hard bed. "Tie him to the table," he ordered. "And make sure he's good and tight." "Got it," the 2 men said eagerly, tying Lu Dengfeng to a rickety table. Lu Dengfeng struggled against the ropes, but he was too exhausted from the last 2 days. He hadn't eaten enough, and the beating had drained him. He was too weak to fight. Tears of despair streamed down his face. "Yang Zhao. I'm so sorry," he whispered. Yang Zhao didn't speak. Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes, tracing paths down her temples and into her hair. This was the worst day of her life, worse than the day she had to retire from the sports team because of her injury. After tying up Lu Dengfeng, the 2 men rubbed their hands together and looked at Dolly expectantly. "You 2 keep an eye on the door. There might be other friends hiding out there. Don't let anyone spoil my fun. When I'm done, you're next." Dolly pulled a pack of expensive cigarettes from the closet and tossed it to the 2 men, grinning. The 2 men pocketed the cigarettes and closed the door behind them. Dolly turned toward the bed, laughing. "You're a hot one, girl. I hate those skinny, ugly chicks with no meat on their bones. I like a girl with curves, like you. Big tits, great legs. Heh heh." Yang Zhao gritted her teeth. she vowed to not make a sound, no matter what happened. She'd just pretend she was being bitten by a dog, she wouldn't give Dolly the satisfaction, and she wouldn't let Lu Dengfeng suffer more. Dolly fumbled with his belt buckle. Suddenly, a strange noise came from outside. He paused, then he heard a series of bird calls from outside the window. A bird? Dolly went back to his belt. It was a good belt, but why was it so damn hard to unbuckle at a time like this? Just as he bent his head to struggle with the buckle, the door opened silently.